Hi, I'm Melissa. Welcome to Wed Worth It. We're going to have transparent conversations around budgets and walk through the emotional journey that is wedding planning. We're going to discuss the value of investing in meaningful moments and the joy that comes from creating an experience for yourselves and your loved ones. We talk to newly married couples to find out, was it worth it? Hi, Taylor. I'm so grateful to have you on today's episode. Taylor got married on Kiawah Island in April of 2024. Yeah, sure. Tell me about you and your husband, how you all met.
So we actually met on Hinge and we didn't talk on Hinge at all. And then we met in a bar in the city and we went on 3 dates in 1 week. And we don't even really count like an anniversary. We just kind of count like our dating anniversary as like the day we went on our first date because we've pretty much been inseparable ever since. So it was
Did you know when you saw him at the bar did y'all
yeah. Oh no,
know?
we like planned to like meet at the bar.
Oh, okay.
We set up a date like to be like kind of casual. So
Yes.
he was actually late and he thought I was late. And then I was inside and he was outside. There was like a miscommunication. So we ended up like we coordinated it. It's funny, like depending on who we're talking to, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to get into the dating app thing with like older like adults. So I'm like, we just
There's a lot of stigma around that, but I feel like that's so common. It's more common that I hear that couples met on a dating app than not now.
my best friend Jenna is getting married in June and she also met her fiance on Hinge and the three of us went to Penn State together. So like she kind of like knew of him but didn't really know him. So it's like becoming really common.
It is. It's so
I mean, I don't know. Like when we met, we went on all these dates and then like he was finishing up like he works in private equity and what's called a portfolio year at his company and he was going back to his regular job and he had a week-long period of free time so he's like, do you
okay.
want to go on a trip? And we had been together for like 2 months and we booked a trip to Turks and Caicos
What?
and we like barely knew each other and I texted my little sister and I was like, I'm going to Turks and Caicos with a guy like barely know. So but I didn't end up dead, so it worked out.
I remember doing a session once with a couple, and it was like remote in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, so the first rule is you're not allowed to kidnap me. And
Yeah.
then if that doesn't happen, we're going to have a great time.
Yeah, exactly. So it worked out. So we met like that. And then we so it was COVID. It was 2021.
Okay.
We started dating. So COVID was kind of like, it wasn't COVID where everyone was freaked out, but it was still COVID.
Yes.
And I moved, I was living in my dad actually owns an apartment in the city and I was living there. And my dad works in the city, but my family had moved to North Carolina. And because of COVID, he wasn't coming back. So he was my boyfriend at the time, and he just moved in with me after like 6 months, and I think we got engaged after like maybe a year and a half of dating. So
Oh,
it all like when you know kind of thing. So
absolutely.
I never really believed in that. I'd always be like, oh my god, that's way too fast, but
I don't think so.
it worked out. So
It did work out. How did he propose?
so he was like, do you want to go to Gramercy Tavern for lunch on November 19th? And I was like, it's like barely October.
Yeah.
Sure, like I
Some
guess.
sort of antenna is
And then I
raised.
kind of like figured it out. And then he was like, I'm getting coffee, but like, why don't you meet me at lunch? Like, it's running late. And so I met him and he like made up this whole elaborate thing about how he got this key to the park and wanted to like, let's go walk through it. And I was like, you're so dumb. Like, I know exactly what you're doing. And then my best friend, who I talked about earlier, Jenna, came in from Philly and we just kind of went out with her. And then the next week we like left for Thanksgiving. So we got to celebrate with both of our families, which was really nice.
Well, that's so
It was low
sweet.
key. I didn't want the like marry me neon sign on the beach. I want something kind of not
Really chill.
loud. Yeah. So
Yeah. And so
so
that was in 2022?
that was November of 2022. Yeah. And
Okay.
then we we went home for Thanksgiving and then over Christmas we were like kind of realized that when you're planning a wedding and a lot of people get engaged over Thanksgiving and Christmas, which
Mhm.
like I kind of knew, but like when you're not in wedding planning mode, like you're so not aware of anything that goes on inside of it. So we like quickly realized that like all of the venues we were thinking of were like, if you don't book tomorrow, like there's going to be no dates. Since we were like, okay. Well, we found our wedding planner. She did a wedding that I had seen pictures of and I loved it. And
Did you start with a budget?
so my parents were going to pay for our wedding and they were like, we'll pay what it costs. And I was like, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
Like, you need to tell me, like,
Structure.
I don't know what these things cost. Like, one wedding planner might be $1,000 and one might be $100,000. And like, I don't
Yes.
know what, like, I need a number. So
Yes, I need
I
something.
contacted my planner. She gave me her fee. And what I really liked about her was that her fee was a fixed fee rather than like a percent of whatever the wedding costs. I think
Okay.
that's kind of, I don't know.
I feel like it's kind of 50-50 from my
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah,
how
it
they
is 50-50, but I'm kind of like, I'd rather you like know your worth, what you want to charge for it, and then like it doesn't matter what I end up spending because you're satisfied with what you're being paid. And then also like, it comes into details like, oh, or you can get these table lamps for, $18 a lamp or these nicer ones for 20. And then you end up spending, I don't know. I was just like, I don't want to be
those
able to
little
take care of
details add up. Yeah.
that. So we contacted Nicole, our wedding planner, and I made my parents get on the phone with her because I don't understand the wedding industry. I can't possibly tell you how much money I need for this.
Yes.
And so she talked to them and I wasn't on the call, but they kind of just came up with a not really hard and fast number. They were just kind of like, we'll tell you like as you go along. And like, we didn't want to exceed like $500,000, which is a huge budget. And in the end, we didn't, which was nice.
Okay.
But it was kind of just one of those things where, I mean, we had a really nice wedding. I'm not going to say like that's not a ton of money. It is, and we're really lucky. But I also wasn't like, I found the value in, photos and flowers and, really nice food. And I didn't find value in like, let's build a wall where a wall doesn't exist and
Yeah.
then shrink wrap the floor with our initials and our faces. I wasn't looking to like spend money in that way.
Sure.
So we gave every guest a +1 because I just think that's appropriate. And a
What
lot
was
of people
your
didn't end up bringing.
guest list size?
I think we had
Your guest list count.
attendance. We had 135 people we invited and 126 people came.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you. Did you say most of like the people you invited brought a +1 or
Like
did not?
married couples did, but like a few of my friends didn't. So if everyone had brought a +1, it would have been like, I think 175 people or 176.
Okay.
And it ended up only being 126. So a lot of people didn't end up bringing a +1.
Okay. And when your parents chatted with the planner, did you have that guest size or that guest count in mind
Kind of. Like
already?
we
Okay.
had counted out all of our family members, and I have a really small extended family. I literally just have an aunt and an uncle and two cousins.
Okay.
So my parents like mostly invited their friends, and then we kind of made a guest list, and then it changed, but not drastically. Like I thought of people after the fact, but it wasn't going to move the needle one way or the other with the budget.
Sure. So what were your priorities going in?
So my priority was to have a wedding that didn't feel like a wedding. I was like, weddings are so corny. Like I hate speeches. Bridal parties look like cults, especially since at the point where we started designing it, before we nailed down a venue, we decided to elope.
So this was before or after you were working with your planner?
We had hired our planner before we picked a venue and a date because it was still pretty early and we'd pick our date based on her availability. And we were thinking about getting married in the Hamptons because we're in New York and my brother's in a group home in Massachusetts. And it's just easier to get him there. So we were thinking Nantucket, where I grew up going in the summers, or the Hamptons, which is a lot easier for guests than Nantucket is. And then finally we were like, Kiawah makes sense to us. My husband's dad really wanted us to get married in Kiawah. We have a house there, so it's actually a little easier for my brother to fly there and be in his bedroom in his house than it is to have him in a strange hotel. And I rented a car and drove out to East Hampton and met my planner. And we looked at a venue, and then I saw it, and I was just like, I just have a vision of it just being like really small. So in that like trip, we kind of made that plan. And from there, once that was planned to like elope and we did it in Nantucket, we rented a house. Once that was kind of squared away, we started planning our wedding, and Kiawah just made the most sense. And especially since we were already going to get married in Nantucket elope wise, like it'd be fun to do like a different vibe. But when we did that, I was like, since we're already married, I want a really nice dinner party that also happens to be a wedding. Want to say like I'm not a very high maintenance person, but in some regards I would certainly be lying. But like I did not want a bachelorette party. I didn't do one.
Really?
Barely wanted a bridal shower. My mom made me, and I hated it. Like I love my mom, and it was really sweet, but I hated
Yeah.
the like corny attention. Like I don't know. So we did all that in a way that was very like casual. Like my husband, his friends took it upon themselves because they're all married to throw him a bachelor party. After we were married, they just like went drinking in the city. So we were very like low key about that. So I think just being casual about it was the number one priority. And then the second one was I
Okay.
wanted everything to be really easy for guests.
Mm.
And I don't want to like shade destination weddings, but like, because I mean, I had one,
I
but
was going to say this was a
we're going,
destination wedding, correct?
yeah, but we're
Okay.
going to a destination wedding in Europe this summer,
Mm.
and it's, like flights are a few $1,000s, like the hotel is a few thousand, like it adds up. And I was like, I want to make sure that we have transportation and like a hotel block and like everything covered so that like no one is worried about renting a car
Mm.
and flights to Charleston are like $500, so it wasn't a small expense. And
I want to circle back really quick. Tell me about the elopement. I'm about to ask you questions
yeah,
about the
I'll
wedding,
start.
but I
You
want
just
tell
tell me
me
about
about the elopement. Yeah.
So I was a student, I was in nursing school, and we booked a house on Nantucket. And my planner was great. We hired her to plan one wedding, and she planned one and a half for us. Awesome.
How lovely.
I know. She's like, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about our wedding planner. So she helped me find a florist and, just rental some chairs. And we set up a little arch in the backyard, and we did our vows, and it was just our parents and our siblings in our backyard. And
Mm.
then the night before we did like a dinner at home. We had a chef come and cook, and we ate in the backyard. And then the night of there's a hotel called the Wawinit next door to the house we got married at, where they do tons of weddings every summer. And we just had a private dinner in the backyard of
That's
the
so beautiful.
and it was really, really, really pretty and really special. Every year we're kind of like, or I guess every year we've only had one wedding anniversary, and then our first like big wedding anniversary, the
Yeah.
one, is coming up. So
You
like
get two.
we're still deciding like what do we celebrate, like what are we doing.
I vote you celebrate both.
I know I said like why don't one of us get like I'll get you a gift for July and you get me a gift for April, like instead of doing this both times. So
That's
we'll
valid. I like that.
but it
Okay,
was
so
awesome.
when you had your elopement, did you already, and I'm sorry if you already answered this,
No,
did
go
you
ahead.
already have the venue booked
Yes. So
for the big wedding? Okay.
we decided we were going to elope, and then I think the next week we booked the ocean course, which is where we got married on Kiawah. And then we found a summer rental for Nantucket. That's a little bit more of a
Okay.
casual process, but I know the wedding dates for Kiawah kind of go quickly. And then I knew I wanted an outdoor wedding, and the weather is such a
Mhm.
concern because Kiawah in June, July, August, and like early September is so hot because it's South Carolina.
Mhm.
And if
Yes.
you don't have a breezy day, like it's just miserable. And I did not want to be like sweaty on my wedding day. So they had 2 dates left in April, and we grabbed one of them. Just kind of prayed for no rain, and it worked out. And then we started by like February. We had pretty much all the big things booked, like
Okay.
band, photographer. The food was through the venue, so we didn't have to worry about like hiring a caterer.
As far as like when you said we want a wedding that doesn't feel like a wedding and that being a priority, did that impact any of the decisions that you were making and some of those big key
Definitely.
vendors?
We just wanted to have a party.
Mm.
So like a lot of our decisions about that were impacted in a way where we didn't want it to feel like this whole big fuss. We just wanted to kind of get people together. The photographer we chose had a really like elevated luxury style of photography. They really didn't interfere with us. They weren't like angle your body 2 inches to the right
Okay.
during the dancing to like get the perfect shot. Like they just kind of half the time, like during the reception especially, I didn't even really notice them, which was nice. They did obviously take like portraits of us and with our families, but that was pretty much the only day they gave us like any direction.
Okay. Otherwise, you kind of became little flies on the wall and let it
Yeah,
all
exactly. So
unfold.
stayed true to the casual, like we're just in it.
Love that. You get to fully be present in your day.
Yeah, which was so I'm like a really high anxiety. I'm gonna like out myself. I'm so type A that it's physically painful, and I'm such a perfectionist that it's physically painful. And the morning of our wedding, my mom was like, "You're really calm and you're freaking me out." I trusted Nicole. Everything's dealt with. Like it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing I can really do. And I was trying to keep in mind that I wanted this like casual affair. I didn't have to have all the
Mm.
like
Yeah. Casual and easy. That's like the,
casual but black tie. So also like not so casual, but you know,
you know, yeah, I think it totally makes sense. Did all of your guests stay on property?
yes, you have to stay on Kiawah. If you stayed outside of Kiawah, it's like a 40-minute drive.
Okay.
Kiawah is like long, so you drive in and then once you get to the island, it takes like 30-25 minutes to get to our house. And so there's one hotel on Kiawah called the Sanctuary. There's another hotel that's in town, which is pretty far, and our shuttles didn't drop people off there. So we gave it as an option since it is a lot cheaper.
Okay.
But they would have to, drive themselves from that hotel. And then the Kiawah Island Resort also has like private villa rentals. And so all of our guests, like if they stayed on Kiawah Island, our shuttle would drop you off after. So that was really important to me
Perfect.
because he was so dark. It's a supernatural island, so there's no lights. I didn't want anyone driving under the
Yeah.
influence, and I didn't want anyone to have to worry about it.
Any other events?
Yeah, so we did a welcome party. We did a cocktail party the night before, so Friday. We didn't do a formal rehearsal dinner on Thursday. We ate dinner in like our pajamas at my parents' house with my
So
husband's
fun.
family. So it was just the original crew from when we eloped. And we didn't really rehearse anything because we had already done it once and we were getting married at my house. Rehearsal dinner is a stretch, but I don't know. I just don't want to bother anyone with like 3 events. And then we did a welcome party on Friday because people were flying in on Friday anyway.
Okay.
And I always feel like if you're going to do a destination wedding, you need to give at least 2 events. If you're doing a destination more than 500 miles away, you need to do at least 3.
Mm.
I'm so glad we did a welcome party because I think I did like my hellos and like all the talking to people I haven't seen in a while or like, just hanging out with my friends more that night. And then on the wedding night, like we didn't get up and go to every table and be like, thank you so much. Like,
It relieved
so
that pressure on the
it
day
totally,
of.
yeah. And I wasn't worried about it because I had already kind of done the pleasantries and got the chance to get FaceTime with the majority of people. So I loved our welcome party. There was this Rosie Asulian dress that I loved from
Mhm.
2015 and I like knew I wanted it and I scoured the internet for it and it was the first thing I bought for the wedding and I was so excited to wear it. And so I was like honestly more excited for that than I was for the wedding because I loved my dress. Um,
Your welcome party? Your welcome
yeah,
party just specific.
you know.
I
So
love that. Priorities.
we just did a cocktail like past apps. I don't think I saw an ounce of food because I was so busy talking to people. So that night, I like went home and ate whatever we had left over. But it was awesome, and that's another thing I recommend, especially for destination. I think it's important because people came all that way to see you and celebrate you, and you want to make sure you talk to everyone.
Yeah,
So
a little bit more time to mingle. And I think you put all this effort into planning this beautiful experience. So you
yeah,
should be able to enjoy it. And the people that were important enough to be there,
yeah, exactly. Night of our welcome party was super windy too, so we were like just fingers crossed for the next day. It is actually so windy up and into the next morning that they were supposed to start setting up our tent the night before, but they couldn't because of the wind. So like the tent crew had to like get up at like 5 in the morning to like get our tent set up
Wow.
for the wedding.
Did
Yeah.
you
So
know anything about that or no?
not until after. Like my planner
Okay.
told me, like she texted me that morning being like, rise and shine, like happy wedding day. We're getting the tent set up. But you know,
I'm sure
the reception wasn't until 6 and there was no wind on the next day. I don't know how long it takes to set up a tent, but I just kind of
it
figured it would be
was
fine.
happened before it was needed to be ready before the
Yeah,
guests
it
arrived.
was totally fine. It was especially good because we were having our ceremony at my house. we have this beautiful backyard that is begging for a wedding ceremony, right? So we did it there. And I think it allowed them, like, the florist to like finish putting the flowers out while we were doing the ceremony and everything. So it
Okay.
ended up working out perfectly. The one thing that was like less than ideal is I think our florist like kind of scammed us.
Okay, yeah, tell us about. I was going to ask about florals, actually. That was one of my
So
questions.
we had decided on like kind of a muted pastels. So like not like your traditional Easter pastels. Like if you take those and you throw a bunch of white paint in them, that's what I kind of
Yes.
expected. I'm so bad
Beautiful.
at things. I was like, I want like colors and florals because I want it to be springy. It's an April wedding. And I wanted like dried hydrangeas that were like green and with like hints of pink. And I don't really know what happened. Like, and she showed up on the day and it looked nothing like the proposals. And I know flowers are like, you want to get what's best in
Yeah.
season. So it's not, you might not have the exact varietals, but like the one thing I was so like picky about was like, I do not want any stringy flowers. And then we went to go look at our ceremony and it was all that. And then, so when you dry hydrangeas, you have to pick them when they're still like pretty bloomed, and then you dry them upside down, and they retain their color, but they dry. And these were like just a dead brown, like horrible. And I literally that was the one moment where I was kind of not calm. I was like, please get these out of here now. Like, this is not at all what we talked about. I was really upset. I wrote her like a pretty scathing email after the fact, and she doubled down being like, this is what you asked for. I like sent her side by side
Really?
comparisons of like, this is what we had discussed and what was promised, and like this is what you delivered. Like, I don't know how you can think that these two things are the same. You can buy dried hydrangeas on Etsy. It's not hard. So
Yeah.
I was like, if you didn't do the like legwork, or like if we didn't have enough money in the budget, like you should have communicated that to us, because like we would just at that point we would have just thrown more money at the problem. And so we were really upset, and we were going to take her to court actually, but then we just kind of decided it wasn't worth our time. That was definitely really upsetting. And like,
Did she seem like super confident and
I don't know what makes a competent florist versus not. Like, my
mm-hmm.
planner presented me with 3 florists, and like she had the best website and like the
That's
best like
interesting.
Instagram page. And when we went to our meeting with her in person, I kind of didn't really know what I wanted. So my planner was really instrumental in kind of like knowing what I meant. And then we got this
Mm-hmm.
deck and it looked exactly how I wanted it to, and then it just like looked nothing like it. And that was a huge bummer. If I could go back in time and like change one thing, that would probably be it.
Did they remove anything that you would ask them to
All
remove?
the dead ones, because they were like
Okay.
brown.
Oh,
If you
wow.
Google dead hydrangea plant and you'll see it. Like, just I can't even believe she brought it, because like the vibe was like, it's April, it's spring, like
Yeah.
just got out of a long hard winter, like everyone's coming to South Carolina like to be warm. It was like 70 degrees, like I don't know, so
And
bizarre.
it's
And then she wouldn't admit that they were dead. It was crazy. So that was the one thing, but all the other vendors were amazing. And my planner also, she mostly does weddings in the Hamptons and like upstate New York, but I really liked
okay.
her style. And so she wasn't, I don't blame her like literally at all, because she did exactly what I would have done if I didn't have a planner. She found florists in Charleston and I picked her. So I don't,
Okay.
she seemed totally legit until literally the day.
Did the planner have any feedback about that afterwards or not what we had
I think she
envisioned?
was sad. She worked really hard, but it's like literally not her fault at all. I'd still recommend her like 10 times out of 10. And, when you're doing, that's the risk we took, hiring a planner for the Hamptons or upstate New York and then going to Charleston. And if that's like the worst thing that happened, like I think she did an amazing job for that being the
Yeah.
first one planned in Charleston. So I don't have
Yeah.
a regret there at all. She was
That's
amazing though.
incredible.
Other than that, like pretty much everything went off without a hitch.
But were there any like really meaningful parts of your wedding?
Yeah, so there were two. One, which I mentioned to you, my brother officiated. So I have two brothers. I'm 30 now. My brother that lives in a group home is 29, and my other brother is 24 now. So he's young, but he's super thoughtful. And when I see wedding photos of some like random stranger that you met the day before your wedding and then you never see again, like right behind them as they're kissing, I'm like, oh, that's so cringe.
Yeah.
I don't know that person.
They're going to be in that photo forever.
Yeah. And then my little sister is 17, so she sure as hell wasn't doing it. And so I asked him to do it, and in Nantucket, because the original plan was we were not going to do our wedding vows. We weren't going to read them to each other in Kiawah. We were going to read vows in Nantucket, and then just kind of do the to have and to hold the Christian vows in
Mm.
Kiawah. And then my brother officiated in Nantucket, and like when we got legally married, I couldn't feel my whole body. First of all, like no one tells you that you're like kind of gonna black out while you're under there, because it's like
Casual.
this is like happening. Like I didn't black out, like I remember, but like,
Yes.
I couldn't feel anything from like my chest down. Like I couldn't feel my legs, and it wasn't like nerves or like regret or anything. It was like I was super excited, but I just was. It was
It's
real.
intense.
Yeah. So, and what's crazy is like my husband and I, we were at the beach an hour before we got married. Like we came home,
Mhm.
showered, and like got ready in the same room. Like it was a really
I
normal
love
day.
that.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, like it just hit me that like we're getting married right now. So anyway, my brother officiated it, and he at the hotel he wrote what he was going to say like the day before, because he's a, 20-year-old boy, on the hotel like notebook paper. He hand wrote it. I like it truly, like it actually made me cry. I've never had. We're not like really like touchy feely in my family. Like,
Mhm.
we're a normal family. We love each other very much, but like we're not super emotive. And like the things my brother said about me and said about Jeff and about our families was just so like it was seriously beautiful. And I made him give me the paper, and I still have it. And so we decided we wanted him to do it again in Kiowa. And reading our vows out loud like that made us like, I was kind of like, maybe I do want to read these in front of the people we know and love. Like
Absolutely.
it was important. And also we didn't want like readings, and we didn't want like speeches. And I think our ceremony in total was like 20 minutes, like if that. So
A wedding that's not a wedding, people.
yeah, exactly. You got to give the people something. So we read our vows, and my brother did it again, and that was really special to have him do it. I'm honored that he did it. I will never be able to repay him. He told
Mhm.
me after the fact in Nantucket, he was so nervous, and when it was over, he was just like, "Oh my God, finally!" And then he signed our marriage certificate, and he signed on the address line and wrote his address on the signature line, and the town had to call him and be like, "That's not right." Like, so that was one thing that we did that was really special to us.
So you had the welcome party, wedding day. Did you have another event, or was it those two?
Just the two.
Okay.
I know some people will do brunches, but I had to. So I was a nursing student. I had to be at work at 7 in the morning on Monday.
Yes. Okay. I've had some of those brides, and I'm like, thank you so much for penciling me in today.
Yes.
I know it's your wedding day, but
Yeah. So we had to fly home on Sunday. And also just like it was again, I said like I wanted the guest experience to be good. It was important for me for people not have to take off a Monday.
mm.
Going to a wedding is so fun, is awesome to celebrate, but it is also like in some ways like an inconvenience. Like, it's
There's a sacrifice involved. I
sacrifice
mean,
because it was a big like we're going, like I said, we're going to a wedding in Europe, and we're so excited. We love, like we're seriously so close to the couple getting married, and we're so happy to do it. But like my husband can't really get time off. I'm starting a new job on Monday, so
congratulations.
but I'm like not in a position to being like, yeah, I gotta
Yes.
go to Europe for a week. Like,
FYI, I'm
so
out.
I wanted to like keep that in mind. And so doing something Friday, I was happy to do, because it's like people are going to leave in the middle of the day Friday anyway for the better priced flights. Like we might as well do something. And Sunday we had a later flight. I think we didn't fly out until like 3 or 4, so because we knew we'd
Okay.
be like recovering. And we just kind of hung out with some family. My parents, I think, stayed, and we just flew out. My husband went to work the next Monday, and it was casual. I know some people like to extend it and make the whole like a bunch of events. I don't know. It didn't feel like us.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, two follow-up questions. The first one was there other things that you considered as far as your guest experiences went?
Not particularly. Like we just wanted it to be easy. We had our planner drop off in everyone's hotel rooms like a little bag. There's a bakery down the street from us in the West Village called Empire Bakery, and they make these like champagne bottle cookies with the date, and like sent them to all the
That's so
rooms with
sweet.
like our this like really pretty watercolor detail of like all the events and whatnot, and all the information about the after party and everything. And that was pretty much it. Like other
But
than
like a very
providing,
special little touch, you know?
yeah, like little touch, but nothing like crazy. And I follow obviously like all these like wedding things on Instagram, and like the
Mhm.
stuff I see is just like you're doing the most. Like
Yeah.
I just thought about what I would get out of that, and I was just like, maybe I'm just not sentimental, but like I would throw all that stuff away. So I don't know. Oh, the one thing that we did do actually is we, for place cards at tables, had someone hand embroider their names on napkins. So,
Mm,
and like they could take them home because I don't need a bunch of napkins with other people's names.
sure, sure.
And a lot of my girlfriends love that. So, like, that was like another little, like, personal, I guess, touch that we,
Yeah, that is. I have never heard that before, actually. I
yeah.
love that. What was your favorite part of the planning process?
Honestly, my favorite part of the planning process was my planner. Like it became like my friend. And I know she's like paid to care about all this stuff, but like we still text every now and then. She just made it really fun. She was able to take the like garbage that I would spew, like the white paint analogy, and
Hmm.
like put it into really concise words. Another thing that we went through that was actually bad, so I don't know why I'm answering this here, was we hired a stationery person that was really respected in Charleston and like great reviews, and she was god awful, but like it made my planner and I closer because we would just be like, what is she not getting? So
What is she not picking up
yeah,
about
it
this?
was crazy. We went through like 8 rounds of proofs and like $8,000 later, we just jumped ship and printed out invites like last minute with someone that she works with all
Wow.
the time. It was crazy. But and then we found this girl on Etsy who did the day of paper, and I'm so glad we did because it was beautiful the day of paper. But like just silly stuff like that where it's like it's stressful, but at the end of the day, it's like an invitation that everyone's gonna throw away.
Recenter yourself, like, oh,
Yeah,
wait.
I'm like, I'm not gonna get worked up about it. But and then I got my wedding dress from Lila Rose, and it was like way too big on me, and the fabric made it really hard to like bring in and have it look the way I wanted. So my wedding planner literally picked up the dress and like drove it to a tailor that she knew of in the city who fixed it for me, and she was just super helpful with all of that. So I think that was my favorite part. The stationery, doing the like day of paper was really fun. I did not find the flowers fun at all, and then it ended up being terrible. So whatever.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I'm sad for that. Yeah.
Like it is what it is. They weren't like hideously ugly. They just weren't what I wanted at
Yeah, do you
all.
think anybody else noticed that?
No, like I noticed right away, but I'm sure everyone else thought they were beautiful and like whatever. I wanted like bud vases for the cocktail hour and then like a bigger version of that for the tables. I didn't want, when you're like at a wedding and like you can't see the person across from you because the arrangement
Yes.
is so like huge. I was
You're
like,
like,
I hate that. So the tables were honestly like the best part of the florals. Like they reflected the most what I wanted, but then like the flowers in front of this band stage and the ceremony were like a complete disaster. But again, whatever.
how were your tables set up?
We did
Was it
long tables. So we
okay?
did like
That's kind of what maybe
we
I had
had
assumed.
actually right in front of me. We had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So it was two, three, and two. And then because we did our wedding with our families already, I wasn't super pressed about sitting with our families on the wedding day. So we just sat with our friends. So we were at like the middle table and had like all of our best friends there. And it worked out nicely because we didn't have groomsmen or bridesmaids. So it was a good time to get to spend with our friends chatting at dinner.
I feel like
Um,
I'm seeing that more actually. No bridal
yeah.
party.
I mean, literally one of my favorite pictures is like my best friend right next to me and her fiance in it. And so it was
Mhm.
nice to have a different perspective.
So I
Plus,
feel
like,
like the elopement like took extra pressure off
oh
then.
yeah, my friend Jenna is texting me like thinking she might do that, even though they're just getting married in Jersey, like where her parents live. Like they're just to get it out of the way. And I'm like, honestly, just do it. Like it makes it so much easier that you don't have to worry about like going to sign a piece of paper correctly and like I don't know. I just
Yeah.
wasn't nervous at
And I
all.
mean too, like for like photography purposes, I'm always
Mhm.
there taking photos of them signing, but I'm like, what are y'all gonna even do with this photo?
Mhm. Okay, so that was another thing about I did not want I people will spend like so much money on like this silky robe and like this vintage nightgown to like get ready in, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with pictures of me getting makeup put on my face? Like
Yeah.
nothing. Like
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't need that. So and it allowed for our photographers to take beautiful shots of Kiawah and like of our property, and it was an easy no-brainer trade-off for me to not have like
Yeah,
getting
and
ready.
those are the photos too. How sweet is that to have those images
Yeah.
of this location that is so special to
Yeah,
you?
totally. And I think it's honestly prettier in the gallery than pictures of me like getting a dress put on. So I was like, I'm not a model and I don't need like to pretend I'm a model. I don't even remember what you originally asked me now. I got so far away. How the tables were set up. I don't know how I got there.
I don't know how we got there either, but I kind of love it. So
Yeah, whatever.
we went from how the tables were set up to zipping up a wedding dress.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you learned any lessons while planning?
I definitely learned that I can't articulate to save my life
I
in,
struggle
like,
with
the
that too.
multiple times that I just couldn't grasp, like, I couldn't describe what I wanted, and I actually learned a lot about myself in that regard.
Mm,
I also learned what makes a good party is the energy that you and your family are putting out. So I've been to weddings where like I just kind of want to go home. Like I'm not really vibing with the band, or like it's kind of like only the super close friends are dancing and everyone else is kind of sitting. So like we chose to do an al fresco dinner so that way that people wouldn't really sit at the tables while people were
mm.
dancing. And like everyone was on the dance floor until we left. So like that was
That's
really important to me. And like I was ultimately really glad we didn't have like activities or like a photo booth. Not that that's bad, but I was just kind of glad it didn't take anyone away from like partying with us.
being present.
Yeah, and being present. And then I guess another thing I learned is just that like I can plan everything so meticulously and it still might not work out, and that's really hard for me. But, like, no matter how much energy and effort you put into it and how much, like, of a fail-safe you have, like, I kinda counted my blessings that, like, the florist was the thing that went wrong. Actually, bad things could have happened, that I kinda count my blessings that it was just our flowers, because 'cause I'm not gonna remember that when I'm looking back
Sure.
at photos in, like,
Yeah.
5, 10 years. So, that was important for me to kinda learn.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in in the weeds, like in the details and all
Yeah.
that. The big vision, it's about the people not leaving the dance floor and enjoying
Yeah.
their time with you
Like, you can have
guys.
a beautiful wedding, but if it's boring, then people will remember your wedding sucked, not
Yeah.
that it was beautiful.
We need it to be beautiful, but we also need it to be incredibly memorable.
Yeah, so I like, we had people telling us that it was, like, the best wedding they've ever been to. Whether
Wow.
that's true, I don't know. I think people say things to be nice, but I had a lot of fun, and that was really important to me. I was really surprised at myself and how calm I was about the whole thing, but I guess I just felt, like, really lucky, like, the rainstorm had passed a few days before, and it was beautiful weather, and my brother was happy, so, like, there's really not
I
much
know
more.
you were concerned about your brother.
Yeah,
For him to be
so
able to be there most of the day, it sounds
yeah,
like.
he was a rock star. We During the cocktail hour, he was like, because he'll do, like, his picture smile, which, like, kinda sucks, he's not really smiling, but then he'll have, like, his real smile, and I can count the number of, like, nice family photos we have on 2 hands because it's so hard to get.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, it's so hard to get. So, he was smiling, and, like, we literally ran and found our photographer, and we got, like, the best photo of the 6 of us, or I guess the 7 of us. And, like, that was the most important thing to me. It was just, like, he was happy and we were able to capture it. Like, I know that that means a lot to my mom, so I was, like,
Yeah.
proud to get that.
How sweet. Like, worth
Yeah.
it for that, like,
I know.
small blip in time moment.
It's kinda funny because you start planning it, you lock down all these big things, and then there's, like, 6 months where you don't really do anything because it's too early to start designing things. Your taste might change, and, like, vendors are coordinating weddings before yours, and so then you
Mhm.
kinda sit down, and then the last 3 months are, like, a crunch to get all these
It's
other
like go
things.
time.
Yeah, so I'm talking to my friend Jenna about her wedding coming up, and I'm just like, it seems like she planned everything in advance. I'm like, "Just wait."
It kind of picks up real quick those last couple months
Yeah.
beforehand.
Another thing I did actually for our wedding that was really special was I needle pointed a pillow for our rings, and, like, I'm not a crafty person at all, so, like, to have made something for our wedding was really special to me. So I'm actually needle pointing one for my best friend too, and I'm really excited for her to have it, and it just, like, I don't know, something special. Like, I
I
care
s
about her a lot, and I'm glad to be able to, like, contribute in that way.
That is so sweet. Like, my daughter's love language, I think, is gifts, and I just
Yeah.
like, what a sweet personal touch. Okay, but quick question.
Yeah.
Did you love your wedding dress or your welcome party dress more?
I think I like my welcome party dress more. My wedding dress just, like, didn't fit me right. I had a dress that I changed into for our reception, and I loved that one. My wedding dress, I would have loved it if it fit me, but it just didn't.
Okay.
Like, I was a student, I was planning this wedding, I ended up losing so much weight right before our wedding just, like,
Mm,
from pure stress.
yeah, sure.
It just, like, it did not fit me, and I was, like, hiking it up, and it was, like, crinkling. It looks beautiful in the photos. Our photographers did a great job, like retouching the crinkles in the spots. So like you
Sure.
can't tell, but like on the day I was just like, this is irritating me. Like we literally got to the reception and I found my planner. I was like, when can I change? So I
Did
loved
you
the
have
dress.
a different dress for the reception or?
I actually had two, but we was just having so much fun that I did not end up changing into the second dress. So I guess the third
Okay.
dress. So I wore this like halter dress and it was beautiful.
Okay.
And it got so gross. Like the bottom of the silk is like blackened. Like I could never wear it again because of how the dance floor gets like crazy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
We had
well,
espresso
that's the sign you had a
martinis.
good time.
Yeah, we had espresso martinis as like our late night drink and like they served them in martini glasses, but like people were drunk at that point.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah, that's on brand.
yeah,
We have a little espresso martini on the bottom of our dress. It
yeah,
could be worse.
totally.
Okay, so when all was said and done, what was the final spend on the wedding?
So not including what my in-laws paid for, we ended up at just under 400,000.
What was the biggest chunk of that? Do you know?
Other than the venue and like the food, because I think food and beverage is always kind of the most. So our venue itself, there was a $7,000 site fee. Food and beverage was $56,000 plus like admin and tax. So that the catering total was $84,944.64 to be specific. The
Very specific.
rentals of like furniture and everything and the catering rentals was 117 and then like the install fee, and we also got the place bug sprayed because it was outside and my dad is obsessed with bugs and he like won't have it, so that was 10 grand. After the venue and like all the catering, which I think is usually like what you'd expect to be the most, our photographer was our
Okay.
second biggest expense at with their travel and their fee. It was I think like $55,000.
Okay.
I don't have the travel fee in here. I don't know.
That's
We
fine.
like kind of just like got lazy with the budget spreadsheet. But their fee for they honored their 2023 pricing because we had reached out to them then. So that was
Sure.
44,500. And we really splurged on photo because I did not want video.
Somebody else I chatted with recently, they said they didn't do video because they wanted the nostalgia feeling of looking
Yeah.
at photos. And if you like watch a video, you're like, oh, I remember like exactly how it went down. It's a little bit less dreamy. I love my videographers, but I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
I totally respect and get why people want videos. And there's definitely like short clips when I see them on like Instagram or TikTok. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Like I kind of wish I had that, but I don't want to hear the sound of my own voice. When I see the
Mm,
videos of weddings with the groom or the bride reading their vows as like a voiceover, like I kind of throw up in my mouth. Like I did not want that at all. So it was a no-brainer for us to kind of really splurge on really special photos and not do videographer. And like guests took little videos and sent them to me. So it's all I
sure.
really needed.
Yeah.
So it ended up,
Yeah.
and then my planner was probably the third, I don't know what our third largest expense was. Maybe my planner, she was
Okay.
$34,000. But then again, a lot of it, like I'm missing from my spreadsheet because we did like as the wedding got closer and we were just kind of like throwing money to solve problems, we just
Yeah.
kind of each other.
Yeah, we weren't updating the
And then
spreadsheet as
like
much,
some of them would
maybe.
be like the travel fee would come in like a separate email that wasn't a part of the contract. So I like never added it. So it actually is, I think wedding budgets are kind of funny because you should set a budget and then be prepared to spend like X percent over it, just with all the little stuff that adds up. Like we got custom matches made and they're not on here. Um,
Mm,
Stuff like that.
yeah, there's little things that add up quickly, but it's hard to make, like I send out a budget breakdown or whatever, but there's so many little things, that
Yeah,
you wouldn't.
exactly. Like I have the good chunk of it on here. Like I can tell you exactly what I paid for napkins and exactly what I
No,
paid for our band, but I cannot tell you what I paid for like decor as a total, just because a lot of it in the end, like especially like little last minute ideas
I
we
was gonna
had,
say
like
there's some sneaky last minute
yeah,
things.
some stuff that like I paid for. Like we had rentals for furniture, but we could not find good like side tables for our lounge areas at our cocktail party. So like I literally went on like Wayfair and bought tables, like, and they're at my parents' beach house, like just little
Perfect.
side tables. Like, I mean, I didn't buy like super expensive side tables because I knew they were going to be like kind of a one and done. But we bought like 4 or 5 side tables. We tied ribbons around our wine glasses at the dinner table last minute, and that I paid for a ribbon. So there's all these little things that aren't in there. I think that like I'm really organized, but I'm not an Excel person.
To an extent, I'm kind of similar. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
organized until I'm not, until my husband kicks me out of the spreadsheet. And I'm like, thank you so much. Don't ever
Yeah.
let me back in here.
Yeah. My eyes were bleeding in front of the computer. I'm like, okay, I'm done today. So,
Okay, so if you had one piece of advice to give to a couple planning their wedding, what would it be? I feel like you've already given lots of good nuggets, but
my one piece of advice would be to set a date in your brain, maybe like a week or like a few days before your wedding. It's like your fuck all date where like everything is officially out of your control and like you can't get upset about it. I'm so guilty of harping on something that I can't control. Like that is my MO. But I really had to like be disciplined about like if I chip a nail the night before, like there's nothing I can do about that. Like just let it go. And setting that date in your brain where you like mentally turn off that like stress and anxiety will allow you to enjoy everything so much more. Would be a real shame to spend all this money and all this time in planning something and then just be so invested in what's going wrong that you don't look around and see like what's going right. That was really important. And then I guess another piece of advice would be if you're a control freak like I am, go look at everything before your guests arrive. Like, I wish I had done a walkthrough of our reception area because it was like still kind of breezy in the morning when our photographers took photos. So like the cocktail area that they took pictures of before people arrived, like the tables, the flower arrangements on the tables were not out yet. So I'm like, I have all these beautiful photos, but like they don't have my flowers
they're
on them.
not fully set up even.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, like that's kind of annoying. Like I would have definitely I guess pointed that out if I had walked through in the morning. There just wasn't time for it. And
Yeah.
there's so many things you don't think about until after the fact.
And
So
I think that's something too that, the photographer could be checking in with the planner and making sure.
yeah,
I like to like make sure that everything's ready.
yeah. I think they like physically couldn't put them out because they kept like spilling. And then like when they had time to get there, and I just noticed it when we got our photos. I was like,
Yeah.
we had flowers on our cocktail tables when we got there, so like, why are they not on any of these photos?
Yeah.
And like, it was just like a little nitpicky thing, but I did wish that I had gone to the reception site to also to kind of look at it because when I got to our wedding, it's like to the cocktail hour, and I didn't see any of our cocktail hour. Like I physically never laid eyes on it. We had an oyster bar that our photographers didn't end up getting a photo of, which is kind of a bummer. But I never laid eyes on it. Like I didn't even know if it was there, and because everyone's talking to you. So I wish I had gone to look at it and like kind of take in all the details that I spent months agonizing over.
Yes.
So like, there's a few pictures of it, but like I would have liked to have seen it. So that was kind of like a thought I
So
had.
for people like trying to join cocktail hour for at least a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. I don't think it would have changed anything because the moment we got there, everyone was trying to talk to us and we were like cornered in this one area. And I like if I had thought about that, I would have told my planner to like, if you see me being like cornered and I haven't seen things, like, can you come pretend there's a
Yeah.
problem? Because
Come
I'm like,
babysit me. Yeah.
yeah, like not her job if I didn't say that, but like if I had known that that was going to happen, and of course it's going to happen. You're the one in the big white dress, right? Like everyone
Yes.
wants to talk to you. So
Yeah, kind of popular that day.
little thing that like isn't the end of the world, but I would have appreciated being able to like actually see everything.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think that's a great piece of advice because I know sometimes people don't think that they care to join
Yeah,
or see anything, and then they're like, "Wait, what?
yeah.
Wait, I did. I
I
put
mean, I
so much
literally
time and
bought
effort."
furniture to put out, and then I didn't end up seeing it. I was like,
Yeah, where are my Wayfair tables?
I don't like these, like, and they're gorgeous tables. I'm like happy to own them, but
I
I didn't get to see them. And
want to see
so
people put their cups on the tables.
yeah, exactly. I want to see them in use. It was that was kind of like I'll live, like I'll survive, but I
Yeah,
was like, I wish I had seen it after the fact.
that's totally fair. I think
That's
that's
another
a great
reason
piece.
that I like think that and I'm sure as a photographer you have an opinion on this, but like first look, like some people are so hell-bent on like their first time their husband sees them is them walking down the aisle, but I'm like, it's kind of not worth it. Like you get this one shot of him, and my husband cried anyway. Like it didn't even
That's what I like to say. I'm like, if they're gonna cry, it's gonna happen either
yeah.
way, you know?
So I'm like, I'm so glad we got photos before that. And again, we were already married, so it wasn't. But the first time we got married, we still got ready in the same room. We didn't do the whole like spend the night apart. Like we slept together and we lived together. So it wasn't. I wasn't super superstitious about that. But first look, I'm sure you were like probably always encouraging clients to do
I
one.
am. Yes,
Yeah,
I do. I love them. Yeah.
I think it's like, and I think everyone that doesn't do it regrets it. So I'm
That's
like,
so actually when I got married, that's one of my only regrets from my wedding day is I
oh,
did not do
really?
a first look and I wish I would have. Yes.
Yeah,
There's just a lot of eyeballs on you that you're not used to having. I mean, at least most people aren't used to having. And so it was this big, beautiful moment. And instead of like enjoying that and like making eye contact with him, I started like waving to all the people,
yeah,
like Miss America style. And we were also like very young when we got married, so extra not used to it. I was
yeah.
21. But yeah, I encourage, I understand, again, it's like I understand when you don't want to do a first look. I get it. I didn't want to. But having been a part of so many, they're so special. It's a totally different type of experience. And also, like selfishly, logistically speaking, it is helpful for people that want to be able to join cocktail hour
Yeah,
and
I mean, you
kind of
get
get
more
photos
out of your
done.
wedding if you get ready earlier and take pictures. And you can actually, like, I think if you're concerned about having a bunch of photos, you're adding more time into your day to get them because then you get them
Mm-hmm.
at the first look and then the ceremony, and then you're there for the whole cocktail hour where you can get more
Mm-hmm.
photos. Like, so I'm like, it's kind of silly to miss this whole setting and miss this huge chunk of your wedding to
Yes.
take photos that you could have done in a few hours ago. Like, I
Yes.
don't know.
And two, I feel like there's this like build up, this anxiety like before you see each other. No matter if you just spent the night together or not, there's it's like our wedding day and everything's becoming real. And I feel like as soon as you get to see each other, there's just this big sigh of relief. And you're like,
Yeah,
okay, like let's do this.
totally. My
You
husband
have your
is
person.
also like an anxious nutcase, and we're like two birds of a feather.
We
He
love
cuts
that.
his bow tie right, and so like I'm getting makeup done, and like he comes up and he's like, "Can you please come downstairs?" And I'm like, "We're already married, so I know you can't walk out on me. So what's the problem?" And he's like, "I can't tie this." I'm like, "I've never tied a bow tie." He's like, "Can you just sit here while I tie this?" So he was sweating it, and I'm like, "Whatever." And then they had him. Then I went back upstairs and like put my dress on, and my parents' house is set up where like like my bedroom's on the first floor, and then the kitchen and the living room's on the second floor, and then their bedroom is on the third floor. So I got ready in my mom's and dad's bedroom. And my photographers set it up because I was like, I don't want this corny first look where you like tap them on the shoulder and they turn around. Like that's just not us. So my photographers did it really nice where they kind of gave us that moment, I guess, because there's like a little landing. So when I walked down the stairs to like go do those photos, he was sitting there. So we still got that
Mm,
like that moment that I was like, it's so corny. I don't want to be perceived. But it was just like to get it out of the way and be ready earlier. It was so nice. And then I also did my first look photos with my hair down. And then I had them put it up in a bun for the ceremony because I wanted to have my hair up for the backless dress I was going to wear later. I have really nice photos of with my hair up and my hair down that I get to pick from.
that's
So
nice that you get to have those two
yeah.
options because yeah, you don't know. Well, I have one more question real quick before my last question. Did y'all go on a honeymoon?
We did. So because I was a student and we got married in April, we wanted to go to Europe. And April is like, just wasn't an ideal time for either one of us. My husband gets 2 weeks in August where he can work from home. And so that was kind of the easiest time for him to take off. So August 16th to the 31st, I think we did 2 weeks. We did Greece and Italy. And
Beautiful.
so it was like super belated because we celebrated our 1 year married anniversary in July. And then we finally went on our honeymoon in August. But it was kind of nice. There's definitely like pros and cons to doing it right after. Like right after you're keeping the excitement, but I was also like, I'm so tired.
You need time to recover and like bounce
Yeah.
back from that.
Yeah. So we did Paros and Santorini and
Mhm.
Portofino and Lake Como, and it was amazing.
We were in Italy last spring and we did Florence, Rome, Positano.
Yeah, so
I
that's like
wanted to hit up Lake Como and we Like, I gotta get back.
It was a
I gotta
hard
get back
choice
there.
to pick between doing Florence and doing like Amalfi Coast and
Yes, that's where we
Positano were
were.
like the other
Mhm.
two, and so we're like, we'll go back.
Yeah, you'll go
No,
back.
it was
You'll go
beautiful.
back. That's like, you know, year and a half or what, like what anniversary 1.2 or something.
Yeah, I know. We're actually going to we're going to Sardinia this summer. We're going in July, and we're really, really excited to go back.
Be so nice.
We can't beat Europe. Just
No, you can't beat Europe.
no.
So I was asking our kids the other day. I was like, what do y'all want to do this summer? My daughter's like, what about Paris? I was like, yes, I love
You
that
have good
idea,
taste.
Lillian.
I was
Yes, I know. I was like, oh, I thought I might be your mom.
So are you gonna go?
This was just yesterday, but I'm like, I want to take. So we went to Italy last summer, and I was like, we need to bring the children back at some point. So I would love for it to be this summer. We have like plans that are up in the air, but I'm like, Paris. I loved Florence.
Yeah.
I fell in love with Florence, but I'd love to see Lake Como. So I don't know. TBD.
Yeah.
TBD.
My parents have this picture of them on their honeymoon with a bottle of wine. It was like their honeymoon wine. I don't know. So one of the nights of our honeymoon, they very graciously like prepaid for one of our dinners. And I sent my dad the wine list and I was like, you pick the wine. And my dad's really into wine. And so we picked one and we like recreated the picture. So it was really cool to do that.
Okay, send that to me.
Theirs was I will. It was, theirs was in Florence, I think. So ours was on Lake Como, but both in Italy.
That's so sweet. I love
Yeah,
that.
it was cool.
Okay, my very last question for you. Was it worth it?
Yes, it was definitely worth it. So you know the show Marriage or Mortgage, that like horribly corny show where they like either the wedding or the house, and I'm always screaming at the TV like pick the house. Like
Yeah.
we are really lucky that, you know, my parents paid for our wedding. I think that if we were paying for it ourselves, it would have been like harder to wrap our heads around. Like I'm my parents' first child. Jeff is his parents' first kid. So this was like really exciting for them. And I think that the excitement of our family made it really worth it to us. Because there were times where you're just like, why are we even doing this? Right. Like
Yeah.
it's so stressful to plan and we're so busy. Like, but then when you're there and you have everyone that you pretty much care about there, as you get older, even some of my best friends, like I rarely see these days. We're so spread out. So it was really, really cool to have like everyone I know be there to celebrate us. Like, so I definitely think it was worth it. Like, could we have a down payment on a really nice house right now? Yes. And I think about that from time to time, but I don't think I would, like, if I could go back, like whenever we're spending money on something like an experience, especially with our honeymoon, like we stayed at Pasalacqua on Lake Como, which was just rated like the #1 hotel in the world. And it was really expensive, but like there's always more money to be made. Like as long as you're not putting
I
yourself
was
debt.
just going to say that.
Yeah. My husband is very financially smart and, you know, we're very lucky in that regard, but you can always recoup costs, but like you can't recoup your life. Time is the most valuable asset that you have, and it's the only one that you can't replenish. And to have that time like with our family and our friends, I wouldn't trade that. So it was very worth it.
That's beautiful. I think that's very well articulated, actually. Yeah.
I've had time to think about that before. I won't lie.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so true that you can't replace those experiences.
Yeah, totally.
A house is cool, but to have all of those people with you is.
We'll have a house one day. Like,
Yes.
you know, we're not even ready to leave the city. Like, so it would have been kind of just like sitting on money. And I don't know. I'm glad we did it. It definitely like brought us closer in a lot of ways. I'm really glad we did it. And it also like having your own wedding makes you appreciate how much that goes into it. So like I'm that much more excited for my friends that are having their wedding this year because like I'm done with it. I'm so relieved it's over, but like I know how much agony and like
Time and energy, blood, sweat, and tears.
Have like the best time. And so it also makes that part more exciting. I think like when you can relate to something, it makes every other wedding you go to for the rest of your life like a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, so a little bit more special too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So I'm glad.
I agree. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to chat with you, and I want to see all of your photos actually. Okay, I will chat with you soon. Thank you so much for joining us. If you were recently married, or if you know somebody who was recently married who might be super fun to chat with about their wedding planning journey, and how they decided to allocate their funds and how everything came together, you can find us on Instagram at Wed Worth It. There's a form within that bio you can fill out, or just feel free to send us a DM. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time.